Welcome to the Jobs and Work podcast. If you're like most Americans, you spend a significant amount of your time working. In fact, we spend more time at our jobs than anywhere else. But how often do we really talk about work in America? On this podcast, the Work for Change team will. Work for Change, LLC is a team of social scientists, thought leaders, and digital storytellers who dig into the critical issues affecting American workers and workplaces today. Our podcast is co-hosted by Dr. Kendra Jason and myself, Dr. Chris Maycumber. We'll also bring guests onto the show who reflect the diversity of the American workforce. We are so excited for you to join us as we lead the efforts to humanize the workplace by building dignity and equity into jobs, work, and organizations. Please subscribe to the podcast and share us with your friends and family. You can learn more about Work for Change at workforchangellc.com.
Hello, and welcome to episode 31 of the Jobs and Work with Work for Change podcast. I'm your host, Kendra Jason, and today we have a small business owner, Mike Dorsey. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
All right, so let me give a quick bio on Mike so we can jump into this conversation. So Mike is affectionately known as Mike D, and we really know Mike on his social media platforms as a very proud husband and father. He's a personal development coach. He's a communications consultant. He's a sought-after speaker, author, content creator, workshop facilitator, a motivational speaker, like I said before, and he really wants to focus and help us discover the greatness and fully authenticate who we are. And so he has a great gift of communication that I really want to jump into. He has several businesses. Not only does he have the Black Fathers Now podcast, but he has a couple of books out, one being the Dynamic Black Fatherhood Manifesto. You got to check out his webpage, which is listed below. He has links there. And, I'm not sure. I have to ask you, Mike, are you working on the Jumpstart Fatherhood, or is that already on ready to go?
Yeah, that's actually already out there. So it's a course that's currently available.
That's what I thought.
So it's a course for to-be or expecting fathers. And it really is 15 tips or keys that really help you to step into fatherhood with courage and confidence. Right.
And so in this module, like I said, it's available on Mike's webpage, but it's like a 15 course module. I don't know why I just asked you that, because I knew I saw it not long ago, but I just want to jump into and give Mike an opportunity to just let us know why is it that you decided to build a business platform on fatherhood, but specifically Black fatherhood.
It's interesting. Well, thank you again, Miss Jason, because this we go way back, and so I really appreciate the opportunity to reconnect and to come together and share with you. But when you think about the concept of fatherhood, specifically Black fatherhood, first and foremost, I am a Black father, right? And there's something powerful about saying I am. It's not I will be, I want to be, I thought I could be. It's what I currently am. And when I think about the concept of being a Black father, and then I also think about my experience growing up, and I had my father in house. I had grandfathers, uncles, aunts, and coaches. I had all of these people. I had this village, right? This whole village that really helped me. And I really roll off of the principle, the African proverb of it takes a village to raise a child, right? But we also look at it and we realize that every strong adult also has a village or community around them as well. But sometimes we forget about that as we grow up, And so when I look back to my experience coming up, I was able to see great examples. But then, Drake has a line that says, far from the hood, but still understand the streets. I was also privy to the other side of it as well, because just because people are in-house or just because you have, great leaders and all of that, that doesn't mean that these people are not fallible, in which you don't see downsides. You don't see, issues and addiction and challenges and bad decisions and all of that. And so for me, I look at it as a blessing to have seen the full scope of what it means to be a dad, as well as what it means to just be a man. right? To understand
Yes.
that great people can make bad decisions, but then people who the world might not say are overly great can have some greatness inside of them. And it's a quote that I use all the time that says perfection is not a requirement for greatness, right? And when I looked at that and I took that experience, my own personal experience, but then I coupled that with learnings and things that I've experienced over time, and I looked at my contemporaries and I thought, like, wow, what is something that would legitimately help us to move forward, to take the ball and go from where we are to where we need to be? And that's really leveraging the full scope of what it means to be a man, to be a father, to be a Black father, taking the good, the bad, the ugly, and looking at all of it as if they're puzzle pieces. You know, we're like a 500-piece jigsaw puzzle. And if we can take all of these pieces and put them together, we get this masterpiece. But the thing that's interesting about a jigsaw puzzle, it's not defined by any one specific piece, but it's also incomplete without all the pieces. And so putting all of that together, and I know I'm kind of giving you this long-winded, response, so to speak, that really, in essence, became kind of the genesis to knowing that I needed to do something in the space of Black fatherhood. But it's really deeper than that, because it's really not just about Black fatherhood. It's about personal development, identity, and becoming the best version of who you are. I'm just speaking through the lens of being a Black father.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so since you gave him a little nugget, let me explain our relationship a little bit more, right? Okay. And so Mike and I were basically childhood friends. We come from the same hometown, Augusta, Georgia, and then we went off to school. Life took our different ways. You graduated from Georgia Tech. I did my thing at Augusta, Augusta State University, and then went on. In North Carolina, we reconnected through social media, like so many of us have. And so, I've been able to basically watch Mike, not just, promote his business, because, it's really interesting that you say that, because I don't even see what you do on social media as promoting your business. I see it as you being who you are. And then as a part of that, you have a business that supports it, right? And so, watching you, through your marriage to your beautiful wife and your cute kids, your kids are so cute. But then, just how you, one thing, you have your podcast as well. And so, I always like to tell, my guests, there's a reason why I brought you on the show. It's not just because we're childhood friends and things of that nature. Number one, I love your energy and your dedication to the craft of what you have. You're very, very, very consistent. And so when I first started the podcast, I'm not a podcast person or a communications person. You're a communications person, right? I'm not. And so, but I thought the podcast would be a great, outlet for Work for Change, which is the workplace equity company that I have, because I really, really like to, showcase small business owners and learn people's stories about how they come into the work that they do. But what stood out to me about you was your podcast. And I'll tell you why it stood out. And this is like, you post so consistently. You have some great guests on your podcast. So one thing, so I have a podcast, or, some of your social media, you won't have like a lot of likes, right? Like on yours, I don't either. So one thing that I learned is that you cannot go by the likes, right? You can't go by how many people click, because, on the backside, it's a little bit more than you need to know, but on the backside of owning your business and having social media, they have this thing called analytics. And basically what it shows you is how many people have come into communication and contact with your content, but didn't actually click it. So in some cases, you may have like 3 or 4 clicks, and you thought I'm talking about me, you thought your post was like really good. And you're like, man, only 3 people liked it. You go behind the scenes and you see 50, 100, 200 people have interacted with that communication. And so, one thing I learned from you, by watching you, is just having that consistency, and that you cannot go by what you see publicly, right? You just have to be consistent, and then show, you show and prove. And then a lot of things are happening behind the scenes. You got a lot of energy and synergy behind you, but publicly people are not going to see that. They'll be like, oh man, that podcast only got 3 clicks or 20 clicks or 50 clicks, which, you know, in the podcast world, competing, I don't consider us competing, but you know, you're on a platform where people have thousands or even millions of clicks, and you'd be like, you know, but that's, you know, it's so, I just say that your message is just resonated with me in that way.
I want to add something to that, and it's interesting. We also have to take a step back and realize that from an authentic perspective, we have our own journeys, right? There are some people that are supposed to impact millions, and billions of people. And there are some people who their whole purpose is to impact that one or that two or that 10, right? Like there's a reason behind everything. And we all have our own intentions. We all have our own pathway. We all have our own journeys. And we cannot get caught up in the comparison. What do they say? Comparison's a thief of joy, right? And so I said all of that to say also that when it comes to podcasting, you may have millions of views or you may have, you know, dozens of views. It doesn't really matter. It's all about how you're using it, because you can have a podcast that's not necessarily one of the top podcasts in the world, but it's a lead generation tool. You know, it's kind of like when someone writes a book and they're now an author, they have a lead generation tool. They can step in and they're now introduced as author of X, Y, and Z, right? Just like when you get a degree, you're, you know, a PhD in X, Y, and Z, or you're the something or the founder of this, you know, that's kind of your calling card. And so having a podcast, especially early on before it really got traction, me just having a podcast, Black Fathers Now, when I got into people's DM on Instagram, folks who otherwise, I mean, the blue check folks who otherwise wouldn't reply would shoot me messages back. Like, I mean, funny thing is, like Speech from Arrested Development, like I remember seeing what he was doing. I just shot him a DM and said, yo, man, I'd love to have you on the podcast. He hit me back. He was like, brother, I love what you're doing. Let's set it up. Here's my man. Here's my assistant. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, if you take a step back and you look at it, there's a method behind it. So for me, Black Fathers Now it's an opportunity or a muse for me to drop nuggets of experience that I've had, connect the dots and share the stories of powerful brothers from, you know, around the world. But it's also an opportunity for me to have a calling card in which when I go to somebody's DM, I shoot somebody an email, and I say, hey, from Black Fathers Now, guess what? More often than not, I get replies back, or I get at least a conversation, you know, with people that otherwise would just kind of keep it moving.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's so good too. And, you know, one thing that what you said just made me think about too is like scaling your business, right? Just one quick note I thought about when you're talking. So Mike also has apparel to complement the Black Fathers Now messaging and everything. It's so dope. Again, it's below on, below here. So please click on that and get you some Black Fathers Now apparel. You know, but thinking about scaling, right? And so, you know, one thing that, you know, like even in, you know, I'm new to entrepreneurship. I just started like in this year, in January, and I really didn't have any magnificent goals, right? I'm just like, I really want to make workplace experiences better, and whatever that looks like, I'm gonna just do it my way. And whatever business comes, you know, I'll be thoughtful about it. But whatever business comes, that's a business, you know, that I'll take it. And that approach is working well, because I'm saying I'm going to make it mine. I'm not going to manipulate myself or become the next guru of this, or try to become the next big box, you know, consultant. It's just going to be, you know, Kendra Jason and her team. And so, you know, as business has been good, you know, business has been successful, you know, the conversation is about scaling, do you scale up? Do you pull back? And so, you know, a conversation I recently had, you know, it's exactly what you were saying about, you know, what's your impact? It's not necessarily that we're putting bounds on ourselves in any type of way or settling. That's not the message. But the message may be that, you know, you have a purpose to touch certain people. You know, and so I know even with this podcast, I have some people watch, especially earlier on, and they were like, man, I watch your podcast and I'm thinking about starting my own business. But, you know, your podcast is just so you're motivating. It just gives me, you know, that conversation, because so many people don't have mentors. So just us having these platforms, giving people someone to, something to engage with serves in a mentoring capacity. But every business doesn't have to be huge, right? Like you said, if I help someone start a business and that business it gets them out of a bad job, or it changes their mindset, or gives them a better well-being, I've done my job. Like for life, I've done my job.
You know what's so powerful about what you're saying, and there's a training that I do, and I call it identity, capacity, and agility wrapped in your authenticity, right? Identity, capacity, and agility wrapped in your authenticity, meaning you have to know who you are. Then once you know who you are, then you can start to understand and learn what you're capable of. But then once you learn what you're capable of, you have the ability to have agility in that decision making. But no matter what, you have to always wrap it in your authenticity. Right? So it kind of speaks to what you're talking about, in a sense that all businesses are not necessarily supposed to go public. All businesses are not supposed to be multi-billion-dollar entities, whereas some of them are, right? But you have to come back and really have that firm understanding of who you are, who you're supposed to impact, what are you designed to do here at this, and what you're designed to do right now, because what you're designed to do right now, you might be designed to just impact, let's just hypothetically say, like, you know what, like Black women who are going from corporate America to entrepreneurship in education, whatever, maybe right now, but maybe 2 years from now, you're supposed to have a stage in which you're supposed to impact billions of people on multiple continents. Who knows? But you have to be in tune. And one of the things that and this kind of takes a little spiritual turn, is, it's interesting. I had a brother, and I spoke at this development corporation. And one of the things that we were chatting with when they were doing like a Bible study before, he said that, and this might challenge some people, but it's interesting. He said, I have a theory that at times we have too much Jesus and not enough Holy Spirit. And I was, wow, that was pretty deep. Because he said, the thing is, when we focus just on the Jesus part, that it's going to be something external that's going to come and change us, and not the Holy Spirit part, which is the thing that was left by Jesus for us to then tap into, to then go and work miracles and do amazing things. Then a lot of times we don't put into practice or tap into that superpower that we have. And so for me, when I think about it, if we're connected to, from my belief structure perspective, I know there are people that have different beliefs and all that, but when we stay tethered to the Holy Spirit and we always are connected to that, then we have this superpower that we can tap into, which then also keeps us, authentic. It keeps us on, aligned with what it is we're supposed to do. But then it also gives us access to this stuff that don't seem legit. It's like, again, you can get in DMs and connect with people, have phone calls, and you're like, wow, that really just happened. For me, I say it's never me, it's what's flowing through me, right?
Exactly.
It's never me, it's what's flowing through me. But I have to have enough faith that faucet's never going to get turned off, because if it's flowing through me, that means I'm not a vessel with a bottom. That means it's coming in and flowing out. But I got to have enough faith continuously that thing's going to stay on. And so that's me having to stay tethered too. And I think a lot of us don't always do that. We completely relegate ourselves to our own devices. What I can think, what I can see, what I can do. I'm like, that's cool, that's dope. But the reality is, what you can see, what you can conceive, and what you experience, that's limited. So you got to tap into something that's much bigger than that. And once you do that, you're just like, yo, maybe I've been selling myself short.
Yeah, I love what you're saying, because it speaks to me in a way. This is not surprising. So in consulting work, and Mike does professional development work as well with so he helps you find clarity, right, in what you want to do. Even if you're a professional, got an education, you need, talk to people like Mike. What I appreciate about what you said is that honestly, there's a lot of money that can be made in professional development and consulting work. I mean, the opportunities are out there. But what I hear you saying in relation to me is that I don't take all the work, because I have to have a spiritual connection and understand that this person is authentic in what they want, and that I can connect with them. And so they see something in me that they want to connect to in order to bring the best out of them, or better out of them, right? And people have told me that. They're like, I'm only doing because it's you're doing this. I'm like, wow, that's powerful.
Yes.
It's powerful when someone
Yes.
says like, I looked at some other businesses, or I know you from around the way, and because you're doing it, I'm going to invest, right? That's a huge responsibility, right? And so, and with that responsibility, it's like, okay, like I said, it's always money to be made, but if it's not a genuine connection, if I know that I can't connect with that person and bring the best out of that person, then it's all about like the fit. You don't want to do it in that way. A part of one of the things that I do in my starting your own business workshop is we start with the vision, right? Because it's about clarity and how, no matter what you want to do, how to make it yours, right? A lot of people, when they go into starting their own business, they it's good to have role models, but they try to mimic somebody else or mimic another thing. And I try to tell them like, yeah, you can see that as a goal, but you have to make it yours. The business has to be, people have to want to come to you for that particular thing, right? And so go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to insert something right there because it's interesting. I would actually even encourage you to take it a step further and go back one step. So the vision or what you're pursuing, that's still kind of external. My whole thing is I look at myself as kind of the prior to solution. So we can pursue in a second, but let's first understand who we are, right? Understand your belief structure, understand your why, understand who you are, understand how you can take all of these things. Where are you great? Where do you have interest? Where does that greatness and intersection align? Because with the greatness and interest in us intersect, that's where you have unlimited potential, right? But then you got to dive into your challenges, your struggles, your issues. But then also make a note of your triggers, because we all have triggers. We all have these things or these people that can take us from 0 to 100 in the snap of a finger.
In a second.
But my whole thing is, so go ahead. Give me. I'm sorry.
I was going to say thank you, and I do that. So one of the huge parts that I feel that I do as well is that I have a huge self-reflection component in part one. So the thing about the workshop is the first part is basically exactly what you said, identifying strengths, challenges, those triggers, and then we get into the business model. Because I tell them we can't build a business plan until you understand who you are and understand what tools you already have. And then to your point, okay, you get there. I said in that first part, so much comes out about people's insecurities and vulnerabilities. And so, and this is why what you said earlier really triggered this thought, is that that's when it gets into a spiritual conversation, right? And so, and also, I end up saying, often saying to, people that I work with, that if you're not already, you may need to consider therapy as well, because there's a lot of self-work that needs to be done in order. Go ahead.
Go ahead. This is so awesome. And I like to play, I don't literally play tennis, but I like to, volley back and forth.
It's fun.
I ain't never played tennis in my life, but I like the tennis when we interview and stuff. But what's so interesting is I interviewed a brother named Sean Dove, and he is the CEO of the Corporation for Black Male Achievement out of New York. He's mentored and coached brothers from all over the world, done this, done that. And when we were doing our interview, he was saying that as he coaches and leads brothers from around the world, one of the things that he mentions is that you need to have a mentor, a therapist, and a coach in the mix. And if you don't, you're going to struggle leading at the highest levels. And in the middle of the interview, I stopped and I said, dude, I know this is for the audience, but you're talking to me, right? Because at the end of the day, without a therapist, a mentor, and a coach, and sometimes multiple in each category, depending on what the needs are, you're going to struggle leading at the highest level. But people have to come back and understand that therapist is there to help you unpack, right? That mentor is there to help you as you go down the path. Maybe they've been there before. They can kind of help you to see the pitfalls that are coming. That coach is there to help pull out what's inside of you and help you to reframe and rethink it. So each one serves a different purpose depending on what it is you're going through, but they're all essential. And if you look at professional athletes, full transparency, they have those things in place. You look at very high level executives. Most corporations now, if you're a C-suite executive, they'll pay for you to have executive coaching, to go on retreats, to do this, to do that. A lot of them have therapists in place, as well as they have mentors. Even at the highest level, they have mentors that they talk to. And again, if we want to accelerate where we are, some things we do need to incorporate into our protocols so that we can then achieve the success that we are designed, not that somebody else is doing, but that we are designed to achieve.
Yeah, you know, what you're saying makes me think, like, if you're a business owner, a small business owner especially, it shouldn't be a lonely feeling. And that's something that not that I struggle with myself, but as I'm helping people in develop their small businesses, they often talk about doing it alone and not having someone to talk to or not having a partner and all these kind of things. But it is a whole network of people. And that's another reason why I love this podcast, because it gives an opportunity for us to talk to each other and then build networks in that way. But you're right. You shouldn't have just one mentor, even if that one mentor is great. And I say this in all capacities, because one person cannot be everything, right? So you need a mentor who's very specialized in a particular thing as far as your business is concerned. You need another mentor you can just vent to and talk about what's happening with your family. You need another mentor who you can talk about family work balance, whatever it is, but you never want to just depend on one person for anything as far as mentorship is concerned, because that's really unfair to that person. Go ahead, Mike.
And I want to add, it's a yes and, because I wholeheartedly agree. But I also say that through the lens of, you also don't want to become a mini-me of that particular mentor. So that's for me, because I even realized that even like when you read books and all, like some people want to read the business book of this guy. Every business book they write, I want to buy their business book. Or every marketing book that this person writes, I want to buy that. And I refrain from buying everything that one particular person does, because if not, what you'll start to realize is subconsciously, you start to regurgitate everything that they're saying, and you start to become basically an evangelist of this particular person or their ideology or their perspective. And you're in essence, going back to what you were talking about before, you're mimicking someone, and you in essence try to become them subconsciously. So that's why, to me, it's good to have a wide array of sources of mentors, therapists, coaches, books, podcasts, development, trainings, and everything that you do, so that you don't fall victim to being me being another Eric Thomas, or me being another Les Brown, or me being another whatever. Because even though they're dope, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to be another one of them, because they got the number one spot locked up in that category because it's them.
Gosh, this conversation can go on all day. We got to hook up more often, Mike, for real. But let me ask you this, to talk directly to the audience. Like I said, one thing I love about this podcast outlet is it gives people an opportunity to hear from people who have been in small business and have the ups and downs. A lot of people are still really unsure or intimidated or hesitate about moving forward. So what advice can you give someone who's really thinking about, stepping into their own business, but have all of these hesitancies that's keeping them from moving forward?
Well, first, I would go back to what we mentioned before and really do a deep dive into who you are. Right. Really really get a full scope of who you are. Look in the mirror every day and really understand the good, the bad, and the ugly about yourself, right? Where you have interest, think about, why is it that I'm thinking about this? Why do I have limiting beliefs? Then on the flip side, where am I pulling these negative perspectives from? Is it a they conversation? Meaning they said this and they said that. Has anybody taken a step back and realized, who is they? Have we ever defined who they is? You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times we do that. We hear they say this and they said we shouldn't. Like, well, doggone it, who is they? Well, it's just they. Well, give they a name, right? Because sometimes when you break it down, you come to realize that these are really not true detractors from you moving forward. These are things that you're telling yourself, or these are
Right.
things that we're allowing a compilation of other things to come and just pour on top of, which then becomes kind of like this roadblock or this stumbling block for us moving forward. So I would first say, start with who you are, start with why it is you want to do something, but then also don't compare yourself to somebody else, but also be smart enough or have enough wisdom to learn from other people. Meaning, you know, I might not try to directly become Eric Thomas or Les Brown, but I do look at their journeys and look at their stories. And you know how it is they came out of their particular scenarios to move forward and become who it is they become. But I also want to do that through the lens of who I am authentically.
Who you are. Yep.
That's right. That's right. And so I would challenge everyone to understand who you are, really wrap that identity up, but then go back to what Kendra mentioned about, you know, your strengths, doing your SWOT analysis, right? You know, what are your capacities? Where do you have capabilities? Where is it that I can be that dude in this particular space? Where is it that I can step in with the gifts, the talents, the skills, the experiences that I have, that I could be someone that brings significant value to the world? And really just do that, because the thing is, there are almost 8 billion people in the world. Right? Don't limit yourself to just your circle, your community, your network, what you've been exposed to, because when you understand that, yo, I'm called to do this thing, now open yourself up, because you might be supposed to impact people in Accra, Ghana, or in Johannesburg, or in Mumbai, India, or something. Who knows? Right? Don't put limits on it, but just take a step back and realize, don't romanticize how you do it. Think about what it is you're supposed to do, really buy into that, and don't let people detract you from it. But listen, because sometimes they're giving you insight that is not necessarily the direct insight that you need to take, but it's like a metaphor for a pivot that you need to make, right? And then as you do that, and as you listen, and as you internalize and process it through the lens of how you think, you can move forward. But the other part to it is, sometimes we just got to do it. Right. And Jay-Z has a line in What More Can I Say? And he says, far from a Harvard student, just had the balls to do it. So, and I mean, I'm sorry if I use that reference.
No, go ahead. You're fine.
I didn't curse, but you know, but you know, but the thing is, I think, and this is what's interesting about the educated population. And when I connect with brothers who maybe didn't go to school, who maybe spent some time in prison or whatever, they're a little more prone to saying, I'm ready to take a risk. I'll put it out there and try it. Versus the educated population, those of us that have gone to college, we feel like we have something to lose. We calculate. We're like, okay, I can only put this up here. I can only do that. And it's so interesting. And that's part of what I like to do, is figure out ways to help brothers who are educated, who maybe have a little pedigree and who've accomplished a few things, to unlock and open up and start to have some of the mindset of the hustler. Because the crazy thing is, the hustler is like, yo, if I got 10 grand, I'm gonna throw that 10 grand on the table and try it, because he's used to doing it. Whereas the brother who's been to college, who got the 401k and this and that, and he might have the 10 grand to put there, he's just like, you know what? I can only put 500 down because I can't do this and do that. But that one who really is used to betting on himself from a different pedigree, so to speak, he's doing it, he's trying it. Whereas the brother who has the capacity to do it is scared. And some of that is the wiring based on the FOMO and all. I know I'm going all around.
No. I'm so gonna wrap up this conversation, but I just have to say one thing that I'm wrestling with right now, and how to approach is, like you say, there are so many professionals in my world. I work with a lot of PhDs in different realms, and you know, one thing it just strikes me. I'm like, you have so much potential to incentivize the knowledge base that you own, that you have internally, right? And you know, so you can make money outside of the academy, you can make money outside of your corporation, and you can make money doing good work. It's not all about like trying to get top dollar, but you can do work like Mike and myself that you're passionate about, that helps people, that's basically for the common good. But so many people like, oh, I don't want to put, you know, I don't want to invest in myself. I don't want to put any money. And I'm like, you put all that money in student loan debt, but you can
we throw some? Can we? I know we got to wrap it up, but it's so important that you said that. And it's interesting because those that have achieved multiple degrees and have been in various organizations and companies and 401ks and retirement plans and all of that, if we're honest about it, they've been more so dependent on the institutions.
Exactly.
On the flip side, the brother who maybe didn't go to college, who maybe spent some time in the pen, who's done some things, they've not had the luxury of being supported by the institutions. So they've had to, in essence, bet on themselves. And so that builds this muscle of, over time, you start being like, yo, I used to be in the street. So it's like, man, this ain't nothing. Like, I ain't got to dodge bullets and all of that stuff. And you talk about just business, let's put it on the table. And
it goes back. Go ahead.
No, but I was going to say, and so I think that's something from a wiring perspective that we need to bridge, because some of the brothers who maybe don't have the institutional background from the standpoint of like companies and businesses and all need a little more insight in regards to long-term planning. On the flip side, a lot of the brothers and sisters that are, maybe in the institutionalized side, been working with corporations and businesses and all, need a little bit more the bet on yourself mindset. Right. And if we can bridge the gap, you're talking about a whole collective community that is like, oh, Lord have mercy.
Powerful. I mean, it's crazy to even think about. And it goes way back to what you said at the very beginning of our conversation, with so many people that I know I work with and probably you work with, maybe, they ain't too far from the streets. It ain't far to conceive of how this works, right? And so it's just a really, really interesting dynamic. And so I really encourage, everyone again to check out Mike's website so you can learn more about Black Fathers Now. You can learn more about the course that he has for like new and potential or expecting fathers. Really, Mike is really dedicated to this work. There's no sham here. There's no smoke screen here. This is who he is. He lives and breathes it every day. And so I really appreciate and get some apparel too. Appreciate it. You being here. And so also, if you want to connect with Mike about personal development and clarity, I think that's something that Mike is really, really skilled at, is helping you understand who you are, getting that junk out the way so that you can move forward. Then once you work with Mike, come over to Work for Change and take my Starting Your Own Business workshop.
Yes, absolutely. We're all connected. This is literally connected. Baton passing. That's how we roll.
Yeah, and so, you can find Work for Change at work4changellc.com. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and of course, you found us here on YouTube. So please like, subscribe, and share so we can work to make the world of work better. Thanks again, Mike.
Awesome. Have a wonderful day, and thank you so much.